right, guys. Welcome. I'm only going to say it once because I got shit last time for saying it more than once. Welcome to the Catalyst Rant. I'm joined by the usual suspects, Robin, Derek, Trevor, and of course myself. This is a little bit of a smorgasbord, if you will. We're going to cover a few different topics today. We're going to do it fast, lightning round style. So the first 5 minutes we're going to devote to something that we do all care about, which is movies and movie theaters. So Derek, what's this blockbuster that tanked? What's it called? How do we spell it?
It hasn't quite tanked. So just as a kind of a overall, obviously with COVID, the movie cinema industry, especially the movie theaters and everything, have been really, really suffering. Now, every summer there comes a tentpole blockbuster, and the latest ones that have come out is obviously Mulan, but that didn't come out in a theater. They released it on Disney Plus at $30 for a download. But that was supposed to be the Disney tentpole. The other tentpole from Warner Brothers was a movie called Tenet, which was by Christopher Nolan. Everyone's a big fan of Christopher Nolan, loves this type of movies. On latest figures, even though they are released in cinemas, the second one anyway, Tenet's making around about $300 million. It'll probably break even at $500 million worldwide. Domestically, it's around about $41 million.
Wait, break even is $500 million?
They break even with marketing costs and everything like that.
Okay.
So they probably won't lose money, but it's an obviously massive disappointment for everything. So there's a couple of things about the movie industry, how it's progressing. They are slowly opening up, but they're looking at shortened hours, from a Thursday to a Sunday, maybe no matinees. So how's the state of the movie industry going to be? And how that affects all the content part of it as well. So all the writers or the production people or the directors, because you've now got a backlog of movies all the way up to 2021 because everything's been pushed out from 2020. So all of a sudden,
all of that just shifted, though. I mean, if you go to movie theaters, everyone's in their homes, laying on the couch, watching Netflix, Hulu, Peacock.
It's the funny thing about sorry.
I was saying a lot of the studios got shut down, so it's like you couldn't even create the movies.
Yeah. So everything's been shifted, but what they found is that the interesting part for me was they tried to do the whole. Okay, so what they found is that consumers are not willing to pay over a certain amount of money for new content. So Mulan was the first time.
Or in the theater.
Online.
Okay.
No,
okay. So what is that threshold?
Sorry again?
So what is that threshold? Is $30 too high?
$30 is apparently too high because apparently they've only made, I think, around about $270. But they've lost that's their POV. That's their content on demand. So they've basically lost their second generation of income, which is the repeat, from rentals and all that kind of stuff. So
why wouldn't they, the pricing analysts that were advising them, why wouldn't they say make it $19.99 like the other ones that you can purchase online? Like, why would you jump $10 more?
Well, I just fact checked, just so you guys know, Mulan made 43.8 million USD.
Domestically, yeah.
I wonder what their break even was.
I think it would be huge. Like, considering it's shot in China, and obviously, costs in terms of overseas production, everything like that. I think it would be a lot.
All of it produced pre-COVID.
It was produced pre-COVID and posted during COVID. That was it's the first gamble that any kind of content providers really done with it, with a massive tentpole. I personally think that they did $30 because they said this is a kids movie. So we're assuming that there's, maybe two parents and one kid. That would be $10 each at the movie theater. We'll charge a movie theater price.
Well, can't they capitalize on this and make up for it with merchandise? And the reason why I say that, so this is a random fact about Robin. So I used to work at Disney World. And Disney World makes $0 on admissions. Zero. In fact, close to losing money. They make all of their profit off of merchandise. All of it. So maybe these movie production companies need to follow suit and come up with something clever and creative related to the movie instead of downloading the movie that is going to help recoup some of those costs and increase revenue.
My only thought about that, though, is that if no one sees the movie in the first place, it's hard to kind of
have the sentiment to buy them.
Well, I have an 8-year-old, though, that has talked nonstop about Mulan, but he's never once asked me, can we download it? But he's talked about it. He's like, oh, Mom, I love this movie. I love this movie. He's seen the cartoon version, the animated version of it, but it was interesting to me when I had no idea he even liked this movie or that he was even aware, but clearly he's seeing advertisements for it. So there's another way.
Well, plus, I mean, couldn't they is the price, I don't know if the price is still $30, but in theory that could be like a starting price and then they could lower it to 20 and then, ultimately
I think they'll do a tier, after like a couple of months and stuff like that.
I like the real movie theaters where, you can go see them in some scrub movie theater like a couple months later, the ones that have been out for a while for like $3 and get a nasty cheeseburger to go with it. Yeah.
That's what I do. I mean, I'm a super fan of lowbrow movie theaters. I don't need to see it the minute it gets released.
No, based on how everyone's, obviously we're all very classy around here. So,
Not even going to pretend.
But they're saying that Tenet, they might run until November, so heading into the holiday season. So I don't know. I will not assume that everyone here is of a certain age. But I remember of the days when movies used to run for like 4 months in the cinema. And so they're kind of thinking about doing this. But I think the overall impact on the industry is that everything has now shifted a year. Theaters like AMC may shut down if they haven't already, at least some of the franchises. And then there's a new model for content and how they're going to break through in terms of that content model. Because like Netflix will churn out something new every week, but it's not a must-see, like in terms of entertainment, right? But now they're like movie theaters are now going, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to charge $30? Is content going to charge $30 per movie now? Is that how we're going to consume content from nowadays?
Well, I think Netflix has a huge impact. I think it completely rivals the movie industry. I mean, I almost solely offer or watch Netflix and a little Disney Plus. But it's interesting. I was listening to a podcast recently with Judd Apatow, and he was saying how much Netflix has disrupted the talent pool for movies, because now all these young writers are just jumping straight into Netflix series. So there's actually a huge brain drain in terms of movie talent from a writing perspective, at least in comedies. I thought that was super interesting. But I don't know. I mean, it's so funny. Like I was also listening to this podcast about the Broadway, right? Because Broadway movie theaters, or not movie theaters, but theaters, had to close, obviously. And they were feeling really depressed about it. And, one of the head guys was like, okay, I guess I'm just going to wait till next year. And then he had this realization. He's like, just because the theaters are closed, it does not relieve me of the obligation to provide entertainment and art for the public. And so he took that show on the road. He took his actors out into the streets of Brooklyn and they performed, in block party style settings. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's game on for the movie industry. I don't want to hear any whiny shit about them. They can't get their act together. Figure it out.
Well, a certain amount of the box office comes from, obviously their run in the movie theater. I mean, the movie theaters take 50%. So a certain amount of their run goes that way, and then they'll make up the second half of their takings from, whatever, rentals or downloads or whatever like that. And then obviously a whole ton of stuff from merchandise. So basically, I think with this particular situation, they're looking at at least probably a third of their profits being taken away straight like that. So from a business sense, if you're in a situation where a third of your profits are just down the drain straight away, and you had budgeted based on a theatre run, so you're budgeting a movie of, let's say, 200 million, which is not actually, which is a relatively small nowadays in a way, 200 million, you have to make up, and you have to make 600 million just to break even, basically, with all marketing. That's a tough one to do.
But they've also had 6 months to figure it out.
Yeah, but even still, they had pre-planned movies for 2 years ahead. It's like getting all the actors together, getting the press release, the junket, the all those kind of bits and pieces so they can't even tour the world because they can't even get on a plane to go interview in the Shanghai Times or whatever like that. All that's out the window now. So it's not that I feel sorry for them. They still probably
you can't feel sorry for them.
Yeah, I'm not feeling sorry.
Has also had to adapt their business model, and
I think they missed the mark on not adapting. Like AMC had a subscription model as far as like Movie Pass, where you could get you could see a certain number of movies, or maybe even unlimited depending on your package. Like buy that and you could watch as many of the like new movies in the theater. They had the rights already to new blockbuster releases. To me, it's like you were just, all you had to do was create a platform. You could create that in a month probably. Like if you really paid somebody to create a platform where you could still use Movie Pass as AMC, download it on your TV. AMC has exclusive rights still, or not exclusive, but like some level of rights to the new blockbuster movies. And now you're still kind of creating that. I know from a production standpoint, it sucks. But to your point, that's more of a 2 year from now problem than it is like a this year problem. Most of the movies that are coming out now are still getting wrapped up.
The only thing about that though is that they're basically, now that Disney's got their own platform, they're like going, why are we going to AMC? Like if I've got my own platform, why would I just not get a subscriber to my platform and then release my movie as a X amount of dollar. Netflix doesn't have that ability to do that. But then you've got HBO Max, which is Warner Brothers. So they're going to probably start doing that as well. It's just a multi.
So Disney, the difference to me is Disney is only Disney. I don't want to just pay to only see Disney movies. I don't watch that many Disney movies. So sweet, I might want to see Mulan. But AMC offers every kind of syndication of movies. So it's like that's a much more viable thing in my opinion, because I'd rather pay them the $40 or something, whatever the premium thing is, $40 a month to see every new blockbuster movie that comes out, rather than pay Disney to go see Mulan and then I have to watch reruns of Frozen.
Because I think that if you ever look, there's no kind of agnostic platform out there. There's no like one that can hold everyone. If a Hulu or something like that did that. So all of a sudden, the piece of your pie, if you release your movie on that, gets smaller and smaller and smaller. But then again, how many people here have like more than 3 platforms of content?
I have, Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, HBO.
yeah. I've got 5.
We're taking the time, guys.
I even have Disney.
Time.
But the difference is I only pay for 3 of them.
You've got 5. How many do you have, Travis?
I have 5 or 6, but I only pay for like 2 or 3.
Oh well, let's
sharing is caring.
Yeah. Let's not talk about pirating. At least not publicly. Ryan, How many do you have?
I guess we have 3. We have YouTube, we have Disney, which we don't pay for, and Netflix.
Would you have YouTube on demand or just YouTube?
No, we have like the fancy YouTube. Shen's a fancy
Red.
Red.
One.
Yeah.
What's a fancy YouTuber? Am I an idiot? Why do I not know about this?
They have their own platform too. It didn't really kick off that well, but I don't know. Everybody has their own platform now. Even like
you just pay a little bit a month, Robin, to get like in theory exclusive content. I don't even know what it is.
And less ads, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's all about less ads, actually.
You don't have any ads. You can like listen to music with the screen closed on your phone. That's probably, in my mind, the biggest benefit. It's so annoying.
Especially because they're sunsetting Google Play.
What do you mean?
Google Play? Oh,
I hear about that. Like, is that actually sunsetting it?
Huh?
I'm actually sunsetting it. That's a bit of a shame.
Yeah, they are. Well, they're migrating it all to YouTube now. They're like, you have to go to YouTube Music.
Oh, and listen to more ads.
Yeah.
Great. Fantastic. Yeah.
How many do you have, Robin?
I have Hulu, Peacock, which, by the way, I loathe. I loathe that freaking thing. But I'm forced.
When you said that, I was like, "What's Peacock?" I've never ever heard of it.
I think it's NBC's version, right?
I'm a big fan of.
It's such bullshit though because of the ads. The ads are painful. Like I can't fast forward. I'm trying to watch Yellowstone, which by the way is so good and so disturbing. The character development is so good. the screenwriting isn't always that great, but the character development, like you hate these people so much, like you can't wait to watch. But yeah, I'm forced to watch commercials. I'm like, I cannot wait to go back to Netflix where I don't have to do that ever again. And I can actually fast forward and then see exactly where I am. Whereas I fast forward on Peacock and then I have to wait a minute because I have to watch the whole series of commercials. It's horseshit.
Isn't it funny that all of us loathe commercials, but we're in marketing?
I was going to say some of us do advertising for a living, so
like, maybe not loathe it.
Guys, we don't, I mean, in our defense, we don't do TV advertising, okay?
You can, to anyone listening to out there, can do TV advertising.
Yeah,
yeah, I was going to say we can do OTT, but
very engaging.
Well, I do think it's interesting from a marketer's perspective, like, because I am so pissed off at Verizon because they're the predominant advertiser on Peacock that I'm like, I don't know that I could ever buy Verizon products because I'm so pissed off because it's consistently the same commercial.
Actually, yeah, that's a really good point. Sorry, this is a total offshoot. Every time I look at, like, on Facebook looking at content, I have, and I don't know why I get it, but I get the DraftKings.
Yeah.
I've actually, like, gone onto their Facebook site and said, the more I see your ad, the more I hate it. I've just written a comment there, just like, so I don't, like, the thing about that is that.
Did it work? Are you still getting fed ads?
No, I still get fed ads. I absolutely still get fed ads. But
the better solution is to click in the right corner.
I know, I've done that as well. No, but they still get around. I don't know how they, like, it says, it doesn't say completely remove this ad, it just says give us the feedback on the ad.
Yeah, just keep saying it's not relevant.
Yeah, it just says not, I just put not relevant, but I keep on freaking getting it.
No, DraftKings went big. They must have spent millions of dollars because they've got out of home, they've got direct mail, they sent us stuff. They're going big. I don't know. That's probably a whole nother topic.
I wonder if gambling's actually skyrocketed as a result of this, and the fact that sports has been compressed into a shorter timeline.
Online gambling, definitely. Right? There's a lot of new platforms.
Maybe we need to start soliciting some of those companies.
They're tough.
The gaming thing. Yeah, I think there is something to be said about, like, the gaming right now.
I did one in the UK. It's a tougher industry to advertise them, I have to say. There's so many.
There's in the UK?
Yeah, I did it in the UK. We did it for, they do a lot of sports betting. And then we did a lot of, it was online poker, but it was basically, like, funded by the dodgiest people ever.
This is public.
I know, not saying any names. But yeah, it was an interesting thing. It was a interesting client, I have to say. But yeah, online gambling is a bit of a funny one. There's so many people.
Look up Derek on LinkedIn and try to make the connection with the client.
I have never put it on there, so I can honestly say that. My checkered career. But what were we talking about?
Well, I was going to try to bring it full circle. I was going to try to bring it back. I think. Okay, yes. So we are in marketing. We do believe in it. Truly, we do. I think that there's just a lot of junk out there in terms of advertising and commercials on these platforms. When I worked with Roku a few years ago, they had just started their advertising platform. The whole concept being, if we know what people are watching, then we can provide them with more relevant content. I think it's sad that we're in 2020 and people still haven't figured that out, that we're still getting served ads that don't matter to us. So I think that's the challenge for us in the future. Digital media, streaming, game on. As we know, it's a competitive year. If you got to adapt or die, movie industry, figure it out. You had 6 months. Speaking of people that did figure it out on a platform, virtual platform, some of us, 3 out of 4 of us, took a look at Inbound, which is, of course, HubSpot's big customer event this year. Of course, it was a virtual event. It was online, but they get, like, the Catalyst Award, which I need to create for kick-ass virtual event. Agreed. Intuitive, so easy to use. You could create an avatar. It took 5 seconds. It was still fun. Engagement Easter eggs left and right, like super awesome 3D virtual world that they created that you could click around and explore. You could meet up with people. The speakers, of course, were kick-ass. One of the things that I loved the best, and then I want to see what Robin and Trevor liked. And then, as a conscious observer, Derek, you can weigh in on whether if you actually think it's cool. But one of the things I loved, it was super dumb, probably the easiest thing to create, but nobody had done it yet for me. I was watching a keynote and I wanted to click into something else, like another screen on my computer. The keynote would just follow me around on my window. Yes. I could literally multitask while I was watching the content. So awesome, which is what I would have done at a real event. Let's be real.
Yes, I loved that functionality because I utilized that too. And at one point they actually had a comedian on, or they had 3 female comedians on. Which I thought was so cool. And then again, multitasking, like I just was listening, peripheral listening to what they were saying. But I'm like, God, this is such a cute value add, like, injecting some light and brevity in these really heavy times. Like I thought that was really struck the right tone, I thought, because they made fun of literally everything. And I had never even heard of any of these comedians, but they thought they did such a great job. But then they even had like superstars like Chrissy Teigen and John Legend, which I'm like, how are we even going to relate this back to marketing? Which is has been one of my biggest complaints with a lot of these marketing conferences is like they get these big name speakers and it's like such a stretch. I think it was Deepak Chopra that I remember, who I adore, and actually listened to him quite a bit. But it was such a stretch, like in the last, I think it was Inbound that I went to that he spoke at, that I'm like, this has nothing to do with marketing. But Chrissy Teigen and John Legend, they did a great job. They were talking about their business and how their own marketing and building their own personal brands plus their company brands and finding great creatives. So I thought it was really relevant. One of my most favorite things, though, that Inbound did was the networking. So 2 things. The networking aspect I thought was great because I could go in and find people and just start emailing them. Actually, one guy reached out to me, and that's how it all started because I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't know we could email people in here. So he reached out to me and has some services that he provides, and so I connected him with a team member. But then I started to reach out to people and started to connect with people. And but one of the greatest things, though, was I would click out of Inbound and then go in and be working. And then I would get a notification, hey, Robin, we think you'd actually really like this presentation. Jump back in one click. And it was email. And then I was right back in. Like it just kept notifying me, not in an annoying way. But I'm like, that's freaking brilliant because you have to know that when you have an all-day event like that, people are going to be popping in and out, or they're going to leave at some point. So keep them engaged by sending them a notification about some of their behaviors that, might be related to that particular topic.
They did such a good job. And they sent emails too, right? Email reminders right before everyone that you had potentially signed up for. So you could, of course, look at the agenda. The other thing that I really loved was the freemium. So they offered some content for free. You didn't have to pay. So you could kind of get hooked on the crack. And then, of course, like if you wanted to do some of the networking or attend some of the more high profile one-on-one sessions or breakout sessions, you had to pay. So awesome way to just keep people engaged. Trevs, you want to talk a little bit about the platform itself?
Yeah, so cool.
The platform is really cool. My biggest, I guess, the pro of it was really well built, even down to like having ADA built into it. So they have like a functionality which made it meet all the standards of that, which I don't know if all the other events are doing that, but it's a definite watch out. And then the way you could kind of engage and interact with your schedule, build your own schedule. There was a lot of cool functionality within it. My biggest gripe was which you kind of liked it, Mariah, but I was struggling with it, was the advertiser or like the booth section. It was cool when you got into a booth, but the navigation to get into a booth was not great for me. It was like alphabetical order. So punish all of the companies that, even if you're the top advertiser or sponsor or booth, you're at the very bottom if you're Zoom. That kind of stinks. So that was kind of done a little weird. I don't know how, I mean, to me, you could do it a little differently based on like preferences. So they asked us a bunch of questions when we input our information. So kind of align some of those advertisers or booths with our preferences would have been a better thing for me. Even around like some of the snippets of what are they offering, how could it like, because you go to a conference and that's kind of what you do. It's like, yes, you go to the breakout sessions, yes, you do the keynotes, and those are all awesome. And that was really well done. But the boosts are where you start to learn, like, oh, this is a cool little product offering, or this is something that my agency could use, or I personally could use, or whatever it may be. I think that's where I struggle the most, because I've been to Inbound and I remember walking around all the booths and you just kind of learn a lot of information from this. And that was a little bit harder from my perspective.
Ooh,
this is the interface, just in case we wanted a visual reference. But I mean, you bring up a really good point. Like, did they do a good job for the sponsors? Yes or no? They did offer some like sort of out of home opportunities here for advertising in their little virtual 3D map. But yeah, I mean, I loved, actually, I think that was such a good, like, sort of aha. And I think something that people forget is when we registered, to your point, Travis, and I don't have a picture of it, they did a really good job being like, hey, let us ask you a couple of questions so that we can get, you know, the best, you can get the best out of the conference. But also, of course, surprise Easter egg for the sponsors, here's some stuff that you need to know about these leads that you're going to get.
Yeah, that's what I thought. They were hunting more for those leads. They probably did or will do a better job of like handing out my information to those companies. But I mean, I think we all know as marketers, it's way more valuable if a client or customer or somebody can come to you first. So if you can kind of reverse engineer that and set it up so I'm like finding an offering that meets something that I said I was already interested in, I'd rather have that experience as the sponsor than kind of just getting a whole bunch of contact information.
Yeah, such a good point. I also loved that they did just call out, like, don't be a jerk. Like, I mean, probably something relevant for the online audience. This is the booth experience Travis was talking about.
Yeah, which is really cool. You can see who's standing there.
Yeah, I'm the one in the turquoise.
I picked a turquoise shirt.
But yeah, they did let you kind of talk to people. You could see, I mean, that's always like a best practice from our perspective. Anything else? Anything you'd change, Robin? Anything that bugged you?
I think that front screen, I didn't go see the Instagram, which I am wishing I would have. Although some of this looks so familiar, I think it's hard to distinguish what it is. I think Brian Halligan and Dharmesh Shah, so the founders of HubSpot, did such a great job addressing like the entire situation, like how weird this all is. And I think they were at Fenway Park. I just loved how they handled the entire thing. Like at one point and clearly they had pre-filmed this ahead of time. So the production work had already been done, but like at one point they're like being interrupted by like construction and they just kept going and they acknowledged that and laughed about it. And they were like, COVID, it was just acknowledging these are the signs of the times, kind of like when we're sitting in a virtual conference or sitting in a virtual meeting and all of a sudden like your doorbell rings, like happened to me this morning in a sales call. You just can't predict.
Go with it.
Yeah, I think they did a really great job. I think there's a ton of room for enhancement, personalization, even around what, like if I'm them, creating tiered sponsorships around, especially the booths. I mean, I think we think about like doing event marketing and booth design and all of that, and that's such a huge component of these events. And you don't really get that. I would love to see, like, kind of give it back to the company to create their own booth design here and let them have some freedom and some flexibility. And it's all digital, so it's super easy. And I'm sure this is kind of like you could create a 3D environment. So it'd be kind of fun to do something where it's like now you're creating almost experiences within the grander experience if you wanted to.
But I think hands down, this is the best virtual event I've seen to date.
Definitely.
So, I mean, they've set the bar high. Yeah, there are things that they could certainly do better, but I think, you know what, game on. Like this is the bar now.
Yeah, they were the closest to replicating kind of an event experience rather than like a webinar feeling.
Well, and still making it fun. Like the gaming area, go back to that one screen where you could actually see, like you can go play like checkers or chess. Yeah, and like they have food trucks there. Like, I mean, brilliant. Like that's where, of course, me being the 7, that's the first place I went. I'm like, oh, it's here. Yeah.
Hell yeah. I mean, we've talked about that before. That's why people go to events. Like, how can you bring more of that human fun element, like the comedians, the food, all of that into it, right? Like, don't make it all just business oriented.
How does the food truck work?
I didn't go to the food truck, Derek. I don't know.
In theory, like what we've done for clients is offering to, pay for lunch through Grubhub or something, right? So you could actually get somebody to say, hey, if you want to sign up, talk to one of our experts, we'll buy you lunch, that kind of thing.
Yeah, go to the food truck, order Grubhub.
Yeah. Grubhub did another piece of fan mail for Grubhub for hopping on that. They did a great job of capitalizing on the virtual event space.
That's quite interesting.
All right, guys, any last words on inbound other than that we love it? And maybe we could add some, call us inbound. We can help you personalize.
It can always be better, but they did a great job. We're
All
just giving a critique.
Yeah, we got to give it a critique. It's fan mail, but Alrighty, dudes, I think that's a wrap for this week.